We are at the Act 46 Formal Study Committee here at the CDC. On Thursday, June 29th, we had a few problems getting into the room, so we're starting a little bit late, but we're in now. We've got our technology up and running, and very happy to be here. So, first order of business tonight, I think, is to review the minutes from our last meeting. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to add or subtract or correct from the previous minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, the only question I would have on these is, and I should have asked you about this before this, but did on fourth page, line 2, we said we need to have the plan in place by 9/30/17. Was that the date? I thought I remembered an August date being in there. Or should we just leave it and talk about dates later tonight?
Yeah, it's a question of what the committee actually say versus what's accurate to the law, you know. But if incentives are involved in this merger, then November 30th is the deadline for a vote, so we can back up from then. The agency's looking for documents late August, and we're going to get to the state board for the September 18th state board meeting. So we probably threw around some generalities, but that's
okay.
all assuming you would ultimately decide to merge.
Is everybody comfortable leaving it the way it is? My note said August, middle of August, but I would absolutely not want to question Richard's expert minute taking. All right, let's move on, and we'll talk more about dates then tonight. Okay, so all in favor of approving the minutes as written? Aye. Okay, it's approved. So tonight, we're going to move right into working with Dan French, that we're very lucky to have, and glad to have you here, Dan. So thanks for all the materials you've sent out to us, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say tonight.
Okay. So, good evening. I think we all met last time a bit. My name is Dan French. I've been a Vermont educator for about 20 years. Started my career as a high school teacher and was a principal and superintendent up in Canaan, Vermont, on the Canadian border in the northeast for about 15 years. Originally from Connecticut, so my wife ultimately insisted that we move south, so we did that. I was superintendent in the Manchester area for 9 years. And now I work at St. Michael's College, my day job, and then I do things like this at nights for fun. So it's good to be there. Talking with Jim and Don a bit about how to proceed, what we thought we would do is major objective tonight would be to adopt a work plan for the committee, you know, to actually get some agreement on what the work would be and how many meetings you want to do it in. And certainly we can modify that. I think to a certain extent, you know, what we do the next time is going to be based on what we do the time before. But it's good, I think, to have a general idea of you know, when things are going to pop up, and that helps. It's already helped. I've heard Jim and I talked, for instance, to get some data on financials queued up, anticipating that would be a conversation at the third session, so that we already have the data set up, so it helps us get information ready. You might have questions as we go through the process, so we can prepare, sort of looking at it at the last minute. So we do that tonight, and actually then assuming you would approve some sort of work plan tonight, we'd actually start off doing some of that work tonight. But what I thought I'd do first, and I kind of threw it out there last time when we were a brief introduction. I know, how many of you are school board members? I kind of Googled you up a little bit. So, and then the rest are community members. Yeah. So my experience is sometimes community members don't have as much understanding of this. I mean, perhaps the school board members, is that accurate? Or community members, you feel pretty comfortable with Act 46? That's great. Yeah. Good for you. What I thought I'd do, just sort of quickly, I'm not going to bore you with this, but I want to walk through some common terms, if you will, Act 46, Act 49, and, just so we have some base understanding of the process and of some common terms of governance. It is pretty arcane sometimes, and, just so we can do that. So if you're okay with that, I'll go ahead and jump in and do that first, and then we'll come back around and talk about a work plan. Feel free to ask questions as I go through this. And I'm not going to belabor some of the information that Donna went through last time. She does an extremely good job of reviewing some really technical aspects of the law. She's a lawyer, I'm not. I'm going to sort of bring that down, but I think more from my perspective as a former superintendent, more of a practical understanding of what's before you. I tend to always err on the side of being practical. So what I typically do is start off by talking about just some common terms. Firstly, this idea of what's a town school district. This is a term that's sort of the basic building block of Vermont school district governance. Term emerges in our history around the 1880s. Vermont, prior to this time, for every, I don't know how, I'll take Bennington as an example. I assume Bennington had multiple one-room schoolhouses, if you will. And those one-room schoolhouses were all school districts unto themselves. They had their own school boards, they were districts. So I don't know, Bennington might have had 12 school districts, each district being wrapped around one of these small schools. And at that time, prior to the 1880s, we had about 3,000 school districts in the state of Vermont. And there was a tug of war. That'll be a constant theme between local control and the state. Ultimately, in the 1880s, the state passed the law and said we're going to go from 3,000 school districts down to the 280 some odd that we have today. Not the exact same 280, but approximately the same number. So that was a big revolution. But basically, the idea is a town school district. When the state came in the 1880s and said, all right, you can, from now on, you can only have one school district per town. So get rid of all these sort of tiny 12 one-room schoolhouse districts, and you're going to consolidate it into one school district. And the geographic boundary of that school district is going to be the town boundary. And this idea that all the students inside the school district have to have the same enrollment option. So the school district is a fundamental building block. All the students inside the district have to have the same enrollment option, meaning if the school district operates a K-6 school and has choice 7 through 12, that enrollment option has to apply to every single student in the school district. You can't have some students in the district having choice 5 through 12, whatever. It has to all be the same. And this is an important concept because when you get into Act 46, one of the early tensions that emerged in Act 46, particularly around school choice or enrollment, is when you try to bring school districts together that have different enrollment options, something has to change. They either have to come together in a way, they have to come to agreement on changing their enrollment options, or they've got to match up with like districts. But it comes down to this issue of the school district and still being in charge of this issue. So when we start talking about supervisory unions or putting districts together under these sort of organizations, these administrative entities, supervisory unions have no say over enrollment option. The enrollment option decision resides at the school district level. The voters of the school district control that, even up through Act 46 and Act 49. So that was the 1880s. Move up to the 1950s, modern times. The state was very interested in incentivizing the building of, in most cases, what we call high schools, regional high schools or union high schools, and Sherman Anthony falls in this category. The state passed a law, and I sort of put it in bold there because we'll talk about 706. As I mentioned, Act 46 really doesn't give us any guidance on how to merge a district. We still use 706. Important distinction, this comes from a different time period in our history. In the 50s and 60s, the state, and there was a lot of local interest in building large comprehensive high schools, and the state gave a lot of money to do that, so a lot of towns jumped at that issue, the opportunity to do it. And those are called union school districts. Union school districts are when more than one town school district get together to jointly operate a school. There's a special kind of union school district called a unified union school district. When that union school district operates all grades K through 12, that's called a unified union school district. We're going to be talking about that because that's probably one of the most likely governance models you're going to look at. We have several of these already in the state. Certainly more of them have been created through Act 46. So we went from the 50s to 60s, not a lot happened, and then boom, 2010, we had Act 153, which I'll talk about in a little more detail. Act 153 didn't create a new governance structure. Basically, it created a new incentive scheme to create union school districts. So still the same idea as union school district. If the union school district was formed under a certain timeline and it included 4 districts or had 1,250 students, it could get certain incentives, and therefore the state would call that a RED, or a regional education district. But a RED is basically a union school district that jumped through all the hoops in the formation under Act 153. This is where people tend to get confused, the idea of supervisory unions, because it contains the word union in the same title. Supervisory unions are an old entity, go back to the early 1900s. The state set these up to sort of group districts together to share superintendents. And really, supervisory unions are that place where state authority intersects with local authority, for good or bad. But supervisory unions are administrative structures composed of multiple school districts. The rub is in the state, every school district has to be a member of a supervisory union, unless it is a supervisory union itself, which I'll talk about as my last bullet. And the state controls which districts are in supervisory unions. So you can, as a school district, you can say, we want out of our supervisory union. You can petition, there's a process where you can petition the state board to get out of the supervisory union. But it's ultimately the state board that decides which supervisory union you belong to, and the voters can petition a study, but you can't say, we want to go to this supervisory union. The state board controls it. Also, the state board can just do it to you. So they don't need you to petition that. They can just say, hey, we come up with a new idea, we're gonna move you. That hasn't happened for a long time. For the most part, the state board has worked with local entities when they do that. And as I mentioned, you either are in the supervisory union or the state board considers you big enough to be designated what's called a supervisory district. Supervisory districts are standalone K-12 districts that are also big enough to justify being called in the supervisory unions. So they have one school board, one superintendent. They don't have a supervisory union board. They stand alone. I put some examples there of Burlington, Montpelier. The key thing here for your learning of Act 46 is that the state in Act 46, the big change in Act 46 is the state is saying, we want to see more of these. These are what are called the preferred governance structure. So the first time the state actually says, here's what we want people to form as much as possible. They want supervisory districts because they're single standalone districts. They're of sufficient size and scale. They tend to get efficiencies and economies of scale. Okay, so that's the general glossary. In terms, we'll throw these around as we work together. I'm just going to make a few observations about state versus local authorities. I think that's an important context to wrap your head around as well. As I mentioned, in the 1880s, this idea that school districts were sort of consolidated around town boundaries. Going back even in colonial times, there's always been this interesting separation between school governance and town governance. Back to the earliest, our first school laws in the country, it was never thought that like selectmen should be operating schools. I think that the colonial idea was that they would put student education along with maintenance of roads or something like that. So there was always this idea very early on that schools were sort of had to be separate deals. So it's important to acknowledge that school districts are not parts of towns. They're not like a water department or a fire department when you think of town government in sections. They are standalone municipalities, which is sort of the next aspect of this. The definition of municipality, generally speaking, is an entity that has the authority to raise its own taxes. So a fire district would be a municipality. School districts are municipalities. In Act 60, 1997, most of you are familiar with Act 60. The legal aspect of this, a lot of people aren't familiar with, but really what came out of Act 60 was this affirmation that the state is ultimately responsible for education in the state. The focus on Act 60 is largely the conversations often about the funding system, but in order to get to that place where the court basically ordered the legislature to create a funding system statewide, the logic had to be established. And to go through the constitutional record of the state to review the Vermont Constitution, the Supreme Court of Vermont concluded that the state's ultimately responsible for education in the state. The state can delegate some education functions to districts, but the state cannot delegate its ultimate responsibility. And state, of course, in Vermont, because we have such a diverse landscape, state relies on a strong partnership with local districts to deliver education. So, one of the tensions that's playing out right now as we're getting close to the end of Act 46 is when is the state going to force people to do things? So I think it's important to acknowledge this fundamental sort of concept that the state ultimately has the responsibility, but certainly doesn't have the expertise or the capacity. Our state is at the state level is pretty small, so they rely significantly on locals to figure things out. So I'll just talk specifically about Act 153 and Act 156, sort of the modern era. As I mentioned, Act 153 created these things called regional education districts. These are union school districts that are incentivized to be formed. You have to have 4 districts for 1,250 students. This was entirely voluntary. So 2010 is sort of the first time, we actually have a law in, I'd say, the modern era. Previously, it was, school district governance reform had been tried, since the early 1900s all the way through. It was often referred to as the third rail of Vermont politics. Don't ever try to do it kind of thing. 2010 it finally happens, but this is entirely voluntary. So you didn't have to do this. And very few did form reds. As I mentioned, I think last time the mountain towns red or Floodbrook School was one of the only ones in this region of the state. So from the state's perspective, it didn't work out too well. So in 2012, they passed Act 156, which basically created some new options. One of them in particular is very germane to your conversation. So first thing I'll just point out is what you have is a continuation from 2010 with Act 153, this idea that the state's going to tinker with these laws to hold people's feet to the fire, but also try to find some ways for people to move forward. So Act 156 is about that. It created this thing called side-by-sides. It gave some other way for districts to form reds. But it addressed this issue of union school districts, like in your situation where you have all your districts members of a union high school district. And what was happening under Act 153 is that any one district, you were required to have if you already had everyone in the union school district, if you tried to do a red, you were required to have all of them vote on it. And if any one of them voted no, it shut the whole thing down. So under Act 156, they created this other way forward. It's called a modified unified union school district, affectionately called a MUD. Okay? And what it said was you can still move forward with a merger if a majority of the elementary school district vote in favor of it. So you don't have to have all of them. You can have most of them, and you can still go forward. The ones that vote no can stand alone as they are currently. Okay? So we'll talk more about the MUD. I think that's a likely scenario. Any questions so far? Heard this? So here's the cornerstone of some of the work we're going to be doing right off starting tonight, I think. It's this idea that Act 46 is a big change from Act 153 and Act 156, because now the state's getting more forceful. And in order to get more forceful, the state had to create some justification for it. The legislators had been working a lot on equity issues around the state. That was a big chunk of work that was going on in the House Ed Committee at the time. So a lot of that work came into Act 46, and it's really in this sort of opening slide. Basically the state said, the General Assembly, the legislature intends to move the state towards sustainable model of education and governance. We'll talk about what sustainable governance means. And these 5 goals are the goals of Act 46. So whether you merge or if you don't merge, either way you have to justify your governance structure against these 5 criteria. Okay? So how are you going to provide substantial equity and equality? How are you going to lead students to exceed the standards and so forth? And the state said, these are our goals, and then we've determined that there's a preferred way to do this, and that's creating a single school district with one board, otherwise known as the supervisory district. So under Act 46, you have for the first time an identification of a preferred governance structure, and there were incentives to encourage people to form those. Basically, 2 paths forward to do it. One is the fast, or what we call the accelerated path. That's kind of come and gone now. Those that could do that did that, and took advantage of an extra 10 cents for a tax incentive, so they got 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. And then there's the slow way, the conventional way, and that's still available. If you were to set this merger up in order to do a MUD, you would actually launch it as a conventional merger with the idea that someone would vote no, but you would launch it as a conventional. Act 46 maintained the old Act 153, Act 156 incentives, so to still encourage the reds and side-by-sides, and maintain the deadline to do that, so that, as you can see, the red incentive deadline, this is Act 46, that incentive deadline expires tomorrow. Should have brought a cake or something, right? I'll mention in Act 49 has extended that deadline out to November 3rd, but the original deadline was June. So there was a lot of activity this past year to form reds. Also under Act 46, it talks about this idea of an alternative governance structure. So it said, there's probably places in the state, as much as we'd like to see preferred governance structures, there's probably places in the state where that's not going to be easy to do or it's not even a good idea. So we're going to create these alternative governance structures. When I start talking about Act 49, what you'll see is the state at the time when Act 46 was passed didn't really have an understanding of how that should go forward. Some districts, like day after Act 46 were passed, submitted their proposal to maintain an alternative governance structure, and the state said, time out. We want you to try to do the other thing first. So there's been some increased rules around how to do an alternative governance structure. And in Act 46, this is, the other substantive difference between Act 46 and Act 153. This is where the state essentially is getting forceful. It's saying you've got to, basically under Act 46, in 2015, the clock starts ticking. You have until 2019 to figure something out. And it's not even inference. It's pretty clear that the state is saying, if you don't figure something out, we're basically going to come up with a statewide governance plan and finalize that and essentially compel people to merge. Act 49 fleshes that out a little bit more. Donna didn't really talk about that last time, but I'm going to kind of bring that out a little bit. So Act 49 just passed. Ink's still wet on it. So with Act 49, this is a quote from it. The Act is designed to make useful changes to merger timelines and allowable governance structures for Act 46 without weakening or eliminating the Act's fundamental phased merger and incentive structures and requirements. Nothing in this Act should be interpreted to suggest that it's acceptable for a school district to fail to make reasonable, robust action to seek to meet the goals of Act 46. So a lot of districts I was working with, including my own when I was a superintendent back when Act 46 was passed, one of the first strategies we adopted was, well, let's wait and see. Who knows who the next governor is going to be? Who knows if the legislature is going to come back around and tweak this thing significantly, repeal it, whatever. There's a lot of people thought it would be repealed. So the first year went by, and we kind of read the tea leaves on that and figured out it wasn't going anywhere. There were still people as of last year thinking that, the legislature said that after that first year, we are going to open Pandora's box and we're going to tweak it. That's what Act 49 represents. So one of the things you see, though, from them is very clearly that they're not interested in abandoning the objectives of Act 46. So what they're saying is we hear you, we're going to try to provide some new tools, but we're not going to take your feet away from the fire. And so those people last year that were thinking the legislature was going to do something miraculous this spring, repeal it or really create some entirely new plans and flexibility, that didn't happen. So Act 49 is really still on track with Act 46 in a lot of ways. It also, similar to the findings that were published in Act 46, what the legislature is saying now is it's looking at Act 46 as a great success. It's saying, look, there were a lot of mergers in the first year, and there were more of those red mergers in the year two. Actually, something like 60% of Vermont students are now in a merged district as a result of Act 46. So, from the legislature's perspective, this has worked out pretty well. So they're saying, look, we're starting to see around the state that these more sort of slightly larger districts are beginning to realize the benefits and educational benefits, let alone the cost benefits. So we think it's a good thing. Act 49, so that's why Act 49 is saying we're going to keep on the same course. But Act 49, very similar to how Act 156 tweaked Act 153, Act 49 includes some tweaks. The first one is it extends the red incentive deadline to November 30th. So previously that expires tomorrow under Act 153, 156. It's now, the window's been extended to November 30th. I'm hopeful districts are paying attention to that right now because a lot of people aren't interested in school district governance policy in the summer. I don't know why. I find it incredibly interesting. I know some people do vacations and things, but my experience is a lot of people don't start paying attention to this until August or September when school starts again, and they're going to miss out on an opportunity to do this if they're interested at all. But anyway, the incentives have been extended to November 30th. The red incentives, the 864.2 cents. The side-by-side has been modified. Donna talked about this a little bit last time. I'm not going to go too much more into it, but there's some new options there, kind of exotic merger options. I'm not sure. When I talked to Donna about your situation, neither of us think it's particularly germane to what you're doing, but they're out there. I would say, this is where I'm turning this around now to a practical sort of perspective. So what does this mean for the summer of 2017? Firstly, red incentives are now available to some mergers that previously did not qualify, meaning if you were trying to do a side-by-side, you didn't have a K-12 on the other side, you couldn't do anything 90-10, you can do one of these 2x1s or 3x1. Also, if you weren't able to bring it in for a landing prior to the June 30, 2017 deadline, you now have some more time to do that. So that's important consideration. Secondly, if you do merging of some sort, you don't have to do this other thing, which is quite onerous, which I'll talk about, which is the Section 9 report. So previously, all districts had to submit Section 9 reports if they didn't form a preferred governance structure. Basically, the state's saying now in Act 49, if you form any kind of governance governance merger, you don't have to do this. So we appreciate your work, you don't have to do this other thing. So that was pretty cool. So this aggressive timeline really is rough, so in order to meet the November 30, 2017 vote deadline, if that's, once again, only if incentives are involved for reds, complete merger proposals need to be submitted to the AOE in mid to late August. This is not in the law, this is kind of what Donna's saying. Donna is a staff of one. There's one other person, Brad, you might have encountered Brad James, he's the financial guy. Basically, the two of them do the initial vetting of any merger proposal. So they want to see these proposals mid to late August in order to sort of finalize them to make sure they're ready to go by September 8th, so that they then can be included in the state board's agenda packet for the September 19th state board meeting. So that's kind of what people are operating under now, they're going to do. So that's why when I get into proposing a work plan again tonight, it's a pretty aggressive work plan. And I like to move really fast. I'm always accused of going too fast. Even I tend to be a little uncomfortable with how fast it could be. The good news is you guys have done a lot of work before. I'm learning about that more and more each day, that you've done a lot of this, maybe not successfully, but we've done a lot of the data is laying around, so it can lend itself pretty easily for us to move forward more rapidly, perhaps, in some other instances. Anyway, so let me talk a little bit about, in terms of Act 46, firstly, what happens if you don't merge, and then I'll talk about how Act 49 modified this a little bit. So, what Act 46 says, I gave a Section 9, and this is verbatim pretty much from the law. If you're not going to merge, if you haven't merged or don't expect to merge, here's what you need to do. You need to evaluate your current ability to meet those goals that I talked about. You have to meet with other districts in your area. And you have to submit a proposal to the state board either individually, and this responsibility has nothing to do with this committee. So if this is the path that happens, this committee has decided that it's not advisable to merge, and it's turning the work back over to the school boards, okay? So the school districts, the school boards would have this responsibility, either individually or collectively, as a group of districts. They have to submit these proposals to justify the maintenance of the current structure, or to propose something else. The change that's happened with Act 49, which I'll talk about in a minute, is that at the time when Act 46 was written, there were no rules. Remember I said, a lot of districts submitted like alternative proposals on day one. The state board has subsequently promulgated formal rules. These rules, State Board Rule 3400, which were approved earlier this week. So there's a link there, and maybe I'll jump out and show you that if you're interested. By the way, I was talking to Jim earlier, we're going to put all this stuff on the website, so if you're interested in seeing slides, whatever, you'll have access to everything we hand out. So that was Act 46. Act 49 modifies this language a bit, or clarifies or adds to it. It basically says, firstly, there's a timeline. Originally under Act 46, it said you had to do it in November 2017. Now we're saying, the way it was written up, it's like either January 30th of 2018 or 90 days after the state board publishes its rules. The state board has published its rules on June 26, 2017, so 90 days would be December 26, 2017. So that's where we come up with late December. So you have to do these by December 2017. It authorizes the state board to consider supervisory unions that have a lower number, so they drop the number in Act 49 from 1,100 students to 900. So that in order to be an alternative structure, the first criteria is you have to have collectively as a group of districts 900 students. Some of the real small SUs in the state were hoping that that number was going to be dropped further, but they gravitated to 900. The other sort of criteria that's in there is that you need to, if you want to justify maintaining a supervisory union, you still have to do merging down to the smallest number of districts practicable. So you can't leave on the table, K-6 elementary. If you merge a bunch of K-6 elementary districts, you can't leave one of them out there and try to justify an alternative structure. The state's not going to allow that, I think. So at any rate, the go-live date for the state board to receive these proposals was set for October 1, 2017. So that's the laws in Act 49 says that's when the state board can start to receive these alternative proposals, and they have the authority to keep approving them to November 30, 2018. The other thing Act 49 says is that the state board will publish merger articles of agreement, default merger articles of agreement that will be used for any mergers required under the statewide plan. So it's the first time you start to hear required mergers. So there's this process in Act 46 where the Secretary of Education is required to create or propose a statewide plan for all the districts that haven't merged. That's supposed to take place in the spring of 2018. She has until July 1 to submit that to the state board. The state board has from July 1, 2018 through November 30th, 2018 to finalize the statewide plan. In the statewide plan, I guess the assumption is that there are going to be districts being forced to merge. And the only way this can happen, well, Act 49 talks about it, is that those districts that are being forced to merge already must have the same enrollment options. So it doesn't give the state board to merge districts that are choice with districts that are operating. They must totally match already. But it's saying the state board is going to publish these default merger articles of agreement. Articles of agreement are the terms by which the merger takes place. So the state's going to come up with some basic ones and say, okay, if you're one of those communities that's being forced to merge, you have 90 days after we publish a statewide plan to come up with alternative merger articles of agreement, some other terms, or if you can't do that, you're forced to use the states. So you get 90 days to figure it out. That's it. Any questions? I'll give you some basic knowledge of where we are. So my assessment, really what I walk away from that, watching the process from 2010 on up, is that I still conclude that you've got a tight timeline to do this work. I can't help but not conclude that. And I do also conclude that if you're interested in incentives, this is going to be your last opportunity to get them. And I conclude, looking at your set of districts, that if you don't merge, you're probably going to be forced to merge. I mean, I've said that from day one, but now I see the writing on the wall more so. So good luck with trying to do an alternative governance structure. If I jumped out, you might want to do that in your own time. Look at that Rule 3400. It's huge. So there's a lot of work there to do to justify it. So.
And you feel that would not fit this situation from your read of it? Don't go there, please.
I'm not going to at all. I'm not even tempted to because it's so onerous. But I think, I was thinking personally of my own time, things I would spend time on for districts, services I would provide. I would only take on helping someone do that if I knew they qualified for it. Mm-hmm. If you asked me to be your consultant to draft alternative merger plans, I would reject you. Okay. Because it would be like shoving a square peg in a round hole.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I didn't encounter in any of the reading was town charters that require a town to educate students within their boundaries. That kind of a charter situation, does that have to be changed? And I guess that's a legislative process before this is submitted. I mean, can't the town essentially reject that change and then throw all this work out if we've decided to merge, but the charter won't go through?
Yeah, when you threw me on town, you mean school district charter?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if there was basically when you propose a merger, it doesn't, you don't rescind the old one, it sort of replaces it. So let's take the example of Mount Anthony as a union school district. If these group of districts were to propose a merger, those new articles of agreement, or charter, if you will, would supersede the old ones. By definition, would dissolve the old relationships and create a new one. So, to your question, if the vote, you're talking about voters voting down kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of Bennington specifically. Don't you have a town charter that?
No, we have we're an independent school district.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't charter.
But that says that you can't, for example, send your students to Woodford even if you needed extra capacity without changing that document,
that
right?
was the belief, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple things. One is I haven't read that, but, there's often beliefs of things versus what's actually written. But what would happen back to, the process here, the Bennington School District would be dissolved. So all previous charters would be going away. What you'd want to be doing as part of this new merger articles is to include anything like that that needed to happen. There's when we walk through 706, question number 13 is other things you might want to deal with locally that need to be of concern. Oftentimes, districts have concerns about closing small schools, so they put in extra protections against that. There might be special situations like this where you want to talk about, relationships among communities. So those kinds of things. Basically, if there were important elements to make the merger work that were previously in some sort of agreement, you'd want to consider whether they should be baked into the new one. And there's a couple choices there, not to get too far in the weeds in it, but you could bake it in a way that would only the voters could change in the future, or you could have it so the new school board could change it, depending on how you set it up, how much flexibility you want.
So we'll get there if we get there, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So work plan?
Okay, so just, once again, the logic here after all this, my consensus, and I think, from talking with John and Jim, is that I think as a group, you're interested in moving quickly as possible, at least to, through this process. Once again, my understanding of the law on this, and it starts right on the top of this, is that this committee's charge is fairly simple. You're basically, your authority under the law is to determine whether it's advisable to merge the districts, yes or no. Okay? So the question is how you answer that question. How do you get there? What do you need to know to answer that question? So the obvious thing is to figure out what are the best terms to merge the districts. And then you look at that, and at the end of the day, you say it's not a good idea to merge, yes or no. So my theory of action on this is to say, all right, so if your authority is to decide is it advisable, yes or no, and the only way you can answer that is to know sort of the best case scenario, what the terms would look like. Let's try to flesh that out a little bit and get to know what some of the issues are. But the objective at the end of the day is still to have that vote. It's not to say, as we go through the process, that we've decided already we're going to merge the districts, but you sort of have to act like you're going to merge the districts, and then at the end of it say, is this even a good idea, yes or no? Okay? So part of this work plan is informed by the sense of urgency. Second one is, it's sort of based on this logic model that your job is to vote yes or no, and the only way to do that is to set it up the best way you can and then admire it or not, and then decide whether to vote. So that being said, what we're thinking about is maybe 4 sessions to do this. And my thinking on this is like 2 hours max. But I think my experience is after 2 hours, everyone sort of glazes over. But there is some work to do. Probably the most important aspect is the sort of initial piece on the policy objectives, to spend some time on that, to see what people think about some of these issues, see how you work together. That'll tell us a lot about how the rest of it will flow. And that's kind of, we can see kind of what's set up for tonight and then so forth, the rest of it flows. At some point, I find that the financial aspect, it's not so much the committee is going to tweak the financial. Sometimes you get into, let's try it this way or that way. But basically, if you can kind of think about aiming the merger into a certain model, then the finances are just going to say, here's what they are. And you're going to say, that's not good news. No one would vote for that, or this isn't so bad. People would vote for it. Well, you have to check that out. Jim has sent me all the raw data already to do the modeling of that, so we're ready to do that, probably around session 3. The other big challenge usually is the configuration of the board. That gets into representation. The modeling of that, there's a couple options under the law. The default is sort of a representation based on its population, and then there's another way to do it using an at-large voting methodology. So that can take some time. And then depending on your financial assets, there could be some delays in there. But this could work pretty well for you, I think, in 4 sessions, and maybe quicker, depending on how much of the previous work you're willing to accept and digest. So I understand the previous committees have already done a lot of this work, so you could probably, instead of just starting from scratch, you could sort of assume some of that work and, at least check it out and see if you're willing to accept it. We shared a couple other merger studies with you, so you can see how they filled it out. I was telling someone the other day about, if you read some of the early merger study committees, they tend to be very elaborate conversations about the policy objectives, and then the ones that have more recently get like 3 bullets, maybe 2 bullets, So you're in that mode now. You're just putting bullets on the form.
Bullets.
Your merger report, on the other hand, is a more narrative document that is really for the voters' consumption, that talks about what you see are the pros and cons and what are the issues. But that worksheet is really a bulleted summary. It's an executive summary for the state board of education. So all that being said, what I was suggesting tonight is that you approve some sort of merger plan, at least work plan to start. and we need to set some dates for that as well. But why don't we, Don, I'll turn it over to you and see what you're.
Well, before, has everybody had a chance to read the work plan? Okay, so does anybody have anyone on the study committee have any comments on the work plan or suggestions that we want? Let's take that first before we go to dates, if that's all right. My one comment that I sent to you pretty late was that there is quite a lot of work done for this step number 2, 1 and 2. And it looks like step number 3 is going to probably be a heavy lift in terms of looking at all the numbers and doing all that.
It depends. Yeah, it could be. I shouldn't say that, but I think it depends. To me, it's like we'll get a sense tonight how the committee wants to approach these issues. I think the financial modeling is really something done offline and brought to the committee. The committee's not going to do the modeling itself. It's kind of crazy to do that. But with the raw data, we can start working on that if you know which direction you're heading. And that's kind of why session 2, we have sort of identified what model do you want to look at first. But I think the policy objectives, we'll talk about that. I think those can go quicker if you're willing to take some of the work that's already been done. We'll try a little exercise tonight where you're going to try to do from scratch and you'll get a taste of that. And you might say, well, let's just see what everyone else, see what your own district did before, and that might expedite that process. And then the other variable down, I'd say, is like, well, what are the dates? So if there was sufficient time between session 1 and 2 for me to do the financial modeling, then we could put financial modeling into 2.
Okay.
But if those were like next week, back to back, it might be tighter. Because you're going to want the financial modeling in your agenda packets.
Well, then I guess the other question would be, we did have quite a lot of conversation about governance structure, and we came to a sort of let's try this on. Sort of a MUD with a hybrid large voting structure.
Yeah.
Maybe we could push that into number 2,
Yeah.
and just move a little faster on
Yeah.
that. I'm worried that we're going to get into August and people are going to take vacation. We're not going to make quorum, and we're going to miss the deadline because of that.
And I think the other thing that's not really represented here, when I originally drafted this was like, well, this is the process to get you to vote, to bring you to that point where you're comfortable enough to vote. Is it advisable or not? The next step, though, is if you would vote yes, that you're advisable to merge, you still need to approve your report. I could start, assuming you're going to have any draft report probably, I can start working on it as you're having a conversation, because I think you can take that and still use it. If you decide not to merge, you can use that for your work for the districts on the section 9. But the committee then needs to approve the draft. I wouldn't send a draft to Donna for a review until you've adopted it. That's sort of like, this is good enough. You got to fix a few spelling errors, whatever, but the content is good. So there's probably a 5th meeting in there. Depending on how aggressive we can do that. But I think there's opportunity to compress this, depending on how quickly you want to sort of chew on the policy.
But and the more I was saying, I think this group is not going to want to give short shrift to some of the data that you're going to crunch. Have I got that right? Or do we not care about that?
Short what?
The data, when it comes to data, when it comes to sort of him crunching the numbers on debt and on students and on all that kind of stuff, isn't that where we've been trying to get for a long time, Dick? It's kind of looking at that stuff?
Sure.
Financial piece.
Yeah.
Financial piece.
Because we never got there in the
We
previous
never got there.
committees.
We did some hypothetical thinking about it, but we never quite got to that piece. And I don't want to have that all happen in one meeting that half the people can't get to for whatever reason. So,
How many people were on the other committee?
3 of us?
3?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few aspects. I was looking at small schools. I think Woodford, you get a small school plan. I want to say about 38,000. So that's a sense of urgency too. Woodford, stands to, when I say the district, the new district would lose that revenue if the red is formed. That's not immaterial. So there's a few other things like that that are related that we need to review. But so we can, I'm all for moving quickly, but you're the political leaders. You've got to be prepared to digest that as we go along.
Are people up for this? Can we do this this summer?
Get it started.
I feel comfortable. There's a lot of work that was done before. I don't think we can't discount that.
Yeah.
I can see tonight you spent a lot of work on it, so let's move. Because if we don't, the state will do it for us. So
Right.
we either do it ourselves, or we just say, we're not going to do this and let the state happen. do what they're gonna do. So let's try to make it happen, and if we can't, then the state's gonna do it for us. So I'd rather have us try to figure it out than have the state tell us.
Yeah.
what
And
we're
I think the biggest casualty of that, of the state trying to do it, will be the governance model.
Yeah, we won't have any control over that.
Right.
And I think that's what's important to a lot of people. So let's figure it out.
Okay, so, so then, you know, my suggestion would be on dates that we, if possible, I've mentioned this to you, but that we set 5.
Yeah, okay.
I know there's 4 meetings here, but, and we can tick, you know, one off. But, that we set 4 additional dates. And I'm not sure what, people's, this is where it's gonna get hard.
Yeah. We had trouble getting this night, if I remember.
But, and we're not gonna get everybody every night. We just need to get a quorum every night, and then people need to watch it on, you know, Cat TV or check the minutes or whatever. So what's generally works for people? Tuesdays, Thursdays?
Thursdays are better for me.
I can do Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Wednesdays and Thursdays for you? Thursday's fine?
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally.
Thursday?
Thursday.
The school board meetings were, are there any?
Wednesday nights, no on Thursdays.
Okay, let's target Thursdays. Let's do 4 Thursdays, 2 weeks apart. Is that gonna be too long? That's,
The trick would be the financial piece, so like a little, if you were to try to do one next week and one financials, that's a little too quick, the 4th of July and stuff. But I think,
what about if we did, next week, if we did everything you have in number 2 plus did governance structure? Could we do that?
yeah.
Next week.
On the 6th?
There's cringing.
Well, it's 4th of July week.
Oh, so sorry. Well, I'm not doing anything.
You're gonna have a
But
hard time.
I don't have a life.
I'm available.
All right.
I'm here, so.
I'm not,
I'm out of town that day.
What about the July 13th?
that
good.
works.
Good.
That's good.
Okay,
So what time? 6?
6 o'clock, July 13th for session number 2.
Probably here.
Jeff, can I borrow your pens?
Yes.
And let's assume we're going to be at the CDC.
Yeah.
Let's assume we're going to be here unless you hear otherwise, okay? Jim?
Yep.
All right.
Okay,
Um,
that's for session 2.
So that's for session 2. So session 3, we have either 1 week, which would be the 20th, or 2 weeks, which would be the 27th.
I could do either.
He's
Which
going to
is-
need the 2 weeks just to
Yeah.
work with
That's
numbers.
fine, I mean, I can do that, if I know in advance, I have enough advance notice now to start.
Well, so it's getting perilously close to August.
Yeah, I can do the 20th, I can do finances for the 20th, and,
Can we push and do the 20th? That's, okay, so 7:20, 6 PM. So session 4. Either the 27th, or if we wanted to go 2 weeks, would be on to August 3rd.
Yeah, I'm out the 27th.
Yeah, I'm unavailable the 27th.
All right,
But
August,
I don't-
August 3rd?
I
No.
won't be here, but.
I won't be here.
I'm not, that's the week I'm out of town.
Okay.
I mean, you could do, do I
Can
need
we
to be
do
here
a
the
different
27th?
day?
I can do a different
The
day.
week of the 25th?
The 27th
Or
is
the
going to be
I'm out, I'm gone the whole week.
a pretty big, well, that's going to be sort of a wrapping up thing, right? So, you're going the whole week?
I'm gone the whole week of the 31st, yes. But I'm back the following week.
And Jim, you're gone the whole week of, the first week of August?
No, I'm gone the last week of July. I'm here the 24th, Monday the 24th, and then gone for a week.
I'm gone on the Thursday of the first week of August.
What about Tuesday, August 1st?
I won't be here. I won't be back until that.
Okay, we need, I think we need to hear Jim, if you don't mind me saying. All right, you throw out some dates for us here.
We have the, so the 6th, if we wanted to do 3, the 6th is out. If we do 6, 13, 20, no?
Yeah.
We said the 6th was out, right?
Sorry, you back in July?
Yeah. I
You could
could,
do the 6th. I mean, if we have enough people.
Yeah, I'm not going to be
I'm
here.
not gonna be here.
so what, can we switch to a Monday and do Monday the 24th? Is that?
I could do Monday.
Wow, gluttons for punishment.
I'm not here.
You couldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I couldn't either.
Okay. So then
Did we say, what about the 25th of?
I could do,
He's gone.
Oh,
25th, Jim's gone, right?
I'm gone, yeah. But I
27th,
return the
you're
2nd.
gone.
I return August 2nd, Wednesday night, but that'll start board meetings. So you'll have BSD and Woodford on Wednesday the 2nd, but Thursday the 3rd.
Well, the 4th, he's gone that week.
Oh, he's
Yeah, not
on.
on the 3rd.
Okay.
Come right after vacation.
There's pretty much no way around this, so we're,
Yeah.
so,
I think we need to work around Jim and the quorum, and that's,
so then, you know, I hate to say this, but I'm away the 8th and 9th.
It is summer, it's to be expected, so.
You want to shoot for a vote on advisability on the 27th, and then skip over a week and like second week of August, approve, if you were to vote yes on advisability on the 27th, go with a vote, say on the 10th, to approve a merger plan.
So advisability, we'd have to do without Jim then, you're saying, on the 27th?
Oh, you can't be on the 27th?
Right.
Okay, I thought.
Yeah.
But
He's off the week.
we can have another administrator here too, so that's,
Yeah, I know, I think it's great.
What day do you leave, Jim?
The 25th and come back the 2nd.
How far away are you going?
Oregon.
So we can't go with it.
Yeah.
Do we have a meeting in Logan?
Between your two schedules, there's no way around it. We have to either,
You're looking at,
Can we do Skype or FaceTime, or,
You can bring him in, yeah, if you wanted to, if he was
Yeah.
or you
dedicated.
mean, are you on vacation, like off the planet?
Yeah.
Different times,
Vacation.
different time
I
zone.
know.
Right, but
So
let's-
6 o'clock would be 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I'll be in Bend, Oregon. I don't know what I'll be doing that day. I'm visiting my son. but,
so let's be, you know, Den, on the
Which now
27th,
everybody in Bennington knows.
session number 4, is there a way that we could do that without Jim?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a member of the committee technically, I mean,
Mhm.
so you can do it without him.
On the
I think-
27th, yeah.
Yeah, really, I'm thinking it's, if you're looking at, that would be a vote.
That would
On
be
the
a
27th.
review other models as necessary,
Yeah.
review completed merger worksheet template.
So we'd be trying to vote.
Yeah, and I don't want to rule out that I could not possibly call in. I just can't
Yeah,
commit
yeah,
that,
yeah.
because I don't know what my.
I don't see any other way around that date
Yeah,
unless
I'm
we're
just-
into late
I mean,
August.
I'm
so-
off that and I'm out of town that night.
On the 27th? Anyone else missing on the
Is
27th?
that of June?
No, July.
Yeah,
That's a Thursday?
yeah, we're gonna blow July here, it's just, that's what we're gonna do here.
I don't think I probably won't be here.
You might, so you might not have a
I'm
quorum.
available any other weekday, that week too.
So we're looking at 2.
Okay, so, Aaron is Tuesday the 25th, and, I mean, that's 5 days after our previous meeting, but, or Wednesday the 26th?
And the 26th is better for me.
26 is better for me.
Okay, who cannot do the 26th?
Just me, but that
Besides
applies
you?
anything, yeah. So, Wednesday the
Let's hold
26th.
7/26, and let's, you know, we have 2 meetings between now and then, and if we feel when we get to that point that we just don't want to do this without you here, or you can't Skype in, or we can't figure out something clever, we'll adapt at the time. But if everyone would please hold those 3 dates. So let's hold one more in August.
13, 20, and 26, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
13, 20, 26 so
26.
far,
6 PM.
6
6
PM.
PM here.
And then, I'm not here,
8, 10.
I'm not here the 10th.
The 9th, Shaftesbury School Board.
What about the 8th?
It's showing nothing on the school calendars.
I
for the
can't
8th,
do
so-
it.
Actually, I'm gonna have to take I was gonna be off that week, but I will come back for Thursday, August 10th, if people can do it. Don't tell Margaret. Turn that off, will you?
Well, everybody knows where I'm going, so.
10 is good.
So this is
10th?
August 10.
August
All
10th.
right.
It's a Thursday.
So Thursday, August 10th, and that's probably going to be a vote, right?
Yeah, somewhere in there, I think, you know, if you vote on the 26th, then we on the 10th, we'd be voting on the draft merger report, or you'd be voting on the 10th, and then you'd have to have a subsequent meeting to vote on the draft merger report,
Okay.
something like that.
All right, so can I review and see if I got it right? That second session will be 6 PM, July 13th. Third session, 6 PM, July 20th. Fourth session, 6 PM, July 26th. And we're also holding Thursday, August 10th, for a vote. Is there any other dates that we have to hold to get this, if we wanted to get this done? No. So this is a lot of work. So if we want to do this, I want to vote on it.
Let's get it done.
Yeah? Someone want to make a motion that we accept this? Well, there's three things we have to do. I think we have to accept this work plan, we have to accept these dates, and technically, we only asked Dan to come on for tonight. At our last meeting, we only asked him to come on for one night. So I think we would also need to roll into that motion, that we keep Dan on. Retain Dan as written in the contract, hourly basis, while we get through this process.
I'll move we accept the plan, the dates, and Mr. French's
Retention.
addition to our
Okay.
effort.
Any second? Second? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
All right.
It's unanimous. So you're stuck with us, Dan, or we're stuck with you, or something.
And I think, my understanding is we'll modify this based on how the workflow goes, so I don't view this as like you block this in, we'll make it work. And I think we still, a big part of it will be deciding how much of the previous work we want to utilize and how efficiently we can sort of get consensus on what the first look the model is going to be. If we're going to look at this modified union as sort of the thrust of this, then the rest of the modeling kind of flows pretty quickly. If you want to look at 15 different models, then we could be here till next year sometime. Okay, so in accordance with the work plan, what we thought we'd do a little bit tonight is to take a look at, I sent this, I think you got this out in advance, this worksheet. Okay, so this is, we're not going to fill this out per se, but this is sort of the outline that will follow. This is one of two documents that, would be submitted to the state. Once again, this doesn't mean you're deciding to merge, but I think it's useful to try to fill this out, sort of a structure for our conversation. Really, the big part, I think, of the work is really these goals 1 through 5. As I mentioned, 706 is the framework by which you prepare a plan for merger. Act 46 modified the merger process to also include the requirement that you address these policy objectives. So you do the 706, which is 13 questions, plus these 5. And this really gets to the heart of your relationship as a group of districts, to what extent this merger would work. Basically, by having this conversation, you start to think about the students being all of your students, not just like Woodford students or Shaftesbury students. Through the conversation, you start to say, we're one ecosystem. This merger is about economic development, having a sane governance structure. Not to say you don't have the same one now, but really to start thinking about the whole system and all the kids as one entity. So we have, as we've said, we have some work that's been done before. This is the kind of typical thing I would lay out for you. You can see this on the screen. I have this little sort of cheat sheet that sort of takes us through a process and gives you some questions that sort of stimulate your thinking. If we were starting from scratch, this is kind of what I had to do. I was thinking we would try this on a little bit. We might, I think, move pretty quickly to looking at what the prior committee did. But this is typically what I have a committee do. We start off with talking about, okay, here are the 5 policy goals. I sort of tweak this for your situation. Basically, in your district, you have everyone's a member of a union school district, or a union high school, middle school district, Mount Anthony. And you're really talking about what to do with the elementary districts. So to respond to these questions, consider how a merged elementary level, basically moving from multiple school districts and boards. So we talk about merging, we're not talking about merging schools or closing schools. We're talking about merging the governance structure, the boards and the school districts. Remember those fundamental terms. School districts control the enrollment option, they're municipalities. You're basically dissolving municipalities, school districts, and creating a new municipality. And you already have that history of doing that with Mount Anthony. So think about that and how creating one board or one district would affect your ability to meet these goals. So basically I'd walk you through this, I leave a box and kind of fill this out, and I give you some sort of prompts, not so much to have you answer explicitly, but just to sort of stimulate your thinking. So for instance, when I look at goals 1 and 2, these are sort of the two big ones in terms of coming up with an educational rationale or evaluating, is it a good idea from the state's perspective, the state's policy goals, for you to merge these districts? In the state says from an educational perspective, we're looking at two things. The first one, goal 1, to what extent would the merger allow you to ensure substantial equity of opportunity among the schools and provide quality and variety of educational programming? Will the merger help do that or not? So we ask questions like, how do you do it now? How do you ensure equity among the elementary schools now? And I would, with a system like yours, I would typically say in some places, if we were to ask a teacher at the middle school, do they see differences in the quality of the preparation of students coming into that school from the different districts? Do they say, oh, that kid's a Shaftesbury student because they excel in math, and oh, this kid's from this district, and because they're from that district, we know their math is much lower? Do they see things like that? So how do you know now? How do you ensure equity as a system now? How would merging impact your ability to ensure equity? How do you do it in terms of programming? Are there some districts, elementary districts, that have all kinds of extra programming for kids, advanced coursework, extra arts programs, foreign languages? Some that don't have that. What's the state now? So it really would require people on the committee to kind of know what's going on, and you go through a process and say, like, we don't know any of those questions. Can we ask Jim or someone, or the principals or someone, to come in and talk to us about what they do? So we would do that, and we'd figure that out. But you can see sort of obviously, if you have one board, then one board can ensure equity. The one board would be responsible for all the kids, just like Mount Anthony is now. Mount Anthony School Board doesn't treat kids from different towns separately. It says these are all our kids. So you would be doing the same thing at the elementary level. So really the larger question for the committee is, if we can do it at the high school, what prevents us from doing it at the elementary level? What makes us cling to that older model at the elementary model when we've already successfully done it the other way? What's so special about elementary that we can't work together? That's sort of a bigger question. So question number 2, the same thing. How do you support students achieving or exceeding the state's quality standards? So how do you do it now? How do you monitor student achievement? How does the school boards do that? The school boards on an annual basis have a conversation about how the kids are doing. How do you compare that across the SU? Do you see schools that are doing better or worse, or kids that are doing better or worse? And how do you deal with that? How do you prioritize or focus resources to help students need help? How would merging affect your ability to intervene? Likewise, dealing with students who need accelerated learning opportunities, how do you do that? Would one board be able to say, oh, look, here's a group of students, regardless of what school they're in, who need an accelerated learning opportunity. Let's get them together somehow, because now we have enough of them. Before, maybe this district was in isolation and had 2 kids, this one had 4, this one had 12, but you didn't have enough to justify bringing in a Chinese instructor. But now if you look at it as a system, you say, wouldn't it be great to do that? And now we can justify it for taxpayers because we have enough of them. So that's the kind of thing districts are seeing when we start talking about these mergers. To what extent do all the elementary schools, prepare students the same way? Are people seeing that? So I don't, why don't we just throw it out to you as a question of process. What I was thinking of doing is sort of breaking into 2 groups. If I gave one group one of these questions, the other group the other 2 questions, you want to talk amongst each other across district and see where that led for a few minutes. Or do we want to jump to a conversation of what did the other committee already do? And, we kind of already know these things. Do you all know each other already? Do you know the issues of each other's communities pretty well? Or?
I don't think we really addressed these very well. I think we got into governance very early, and we got into other rules and regs, but we didn't really get into student achievement. And
this is what drives it, because if you can't do the educational piece, the rest of it's just sort of like mechanical.
We chatted about how important it was, but I don't think we really discussed
I think we touched on pieces of it, but as a section, we didn't touch on them.
Not to answer that question.
Yeah, not to answer that question.
So we have, Dick, you're the sole Woodford representative,
yes.
Correct? And there's 2 Shaftesbury?
Yes.
Both of you were here, and there's 4 Bennington, right? And there's no one from Powell here tonight?
John's was not able to be here tonight. And there's one person that's they need to appoint one more
Yeah.
person.
Well, why don't we do this, I would say, if you're okay, let's take about 10 minutes and have a conversation about these issues. And if you could just, Jake, you're just gonna have to divide yourself somehow, okay? But if you could divide yourselves into two groups, figure out which question, we'll have question 1 over here, question 2 over here. And Bennington folks, kind of divide yourselves up, Shaftesbury, divide yourselves up, so there's someone in each group. And why don't you just have a conversation? Group 1, talk about this first one, and then group 2, talk about the other one, then we'll just have you report out. And you can reflect upon what your commonalities are, what you need to know, or if you think you have a conversation in your group as to if you could just use the previous work group's stuff, just have a conversation about process, and then we'll report out and give me a sense of how we might modify the work plan. Okay. Does that make sense?
Okay. So,
We'll take about 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Can we recruit a couple
We just
people over
need a
here?
Shaftesbury.
I guess we're.
Jim and I will just sort of be
They're two better with that.
stuff, but,
We have 2 different schools in Bennington, which is.
Question two?
Right, which is beneficial.
Yeah.
Question 1?
Okay, sounds good.
Jeff, come
Well,
over this way so we
I
can.
know,
be around.
very little about Woodford.
So we can-
It's small, it's generally isolated. We like to think we have a lot of unique programs, but we are limited by our physical.
These are the kinds of conversations that communities are often really, anxious to have, talking about education. As opposed to, getting stuck, a lot of times we get caught, particularly in school boards, and the operational aspects of what's going on, and we get driven by our sense of the urgent things that we have going on. But a lot of the communities that I've worked with, they're really hungry for a conversation about education and the future of teaching and learning. It's really, a lot of things are changing right now, so this can be a very rich area. Unfortunately, we only have 4 sessions, okay? So we're gonna move through this a little bit. Why don't you guys, just group 1, why don't you share out a little bit, talk about some ideas.
So we talked a little bit about how it's kind of hard to answer that question in terms of the equity or managing and ensuring that there is equity, only just because of the vast differences between the sizes of the schools and what the opportunities could be, or and what the fears are sometimes between going from one to the other.
I think it's also a function of just the fact that there's, right now, different boards, and Woodford board doesn't answer to Bennington board, and who doesn't report to Shaftesbury, right? Within the BSD, the meetings I've always been to is that there's always conversation about what's going on at Molly, what's going on at Monument, what's going on at Benell, and we're going to provide equal opportunities to kids, but that's where that stops.
Right.
Do I have that right? I mean,
We might ensure better results with better collaboration among the boards, is what you're,
yeah.
that's
And-
one.
And
Does the Bennington board view all Bennington kids as like being Bennington kids?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're an example of a.
Exactly,
district
that's what I was
operates
just about to
multiple
say.
schools,
Yes.
So you have that experience already, you think these are all our kids. You don't think like Molly Stark needs this, and
Right.
Donnell needs that, and Monument needs, you think of them. Yeah.
Well,
Because they
being at Monument, I can say that often we hear about services that Molly gets purely because of the population,
Kids
right?
are,
I mean,
right.
they have different title teachers and,
Yeah.
but that's, I mean, in terms of just being a community member and being a parent,
Yeah.
what I've always heard from the board is that they're all BSD kids.
Yeah, and that's important to acknowledge, because in many Vermont communities, that's, most places we're back to where we were in the 1880s, where there's one school district per school, because of the declining population of the state. So for a lot of folks, it's a new idea to think about operating more than one school at the same grade level, from a board perspective. And that's one of the big hurdles emerging often. They're like, well, how can we do that? It's interesting. Anything else?
There was we just got started into curriculum, maybe.
Yeah.
I think there might have been over the years diverse curriculums, and I think
Yeah.
that's starting to
Yeah.
come together a little better than it used to.
Yeah.
But that's a way where we could look at
And that's something, to the point, I didn't get into Act 153. There's a whole other section of Act 153 that requires centralization at the supervisory level. Curriculum and professional development were two of those items. So you're probably doing that. And my understanding, this district was already doing that even before Act 153. There was a lot of impetus to do things centrally and work together.
And just one thing there, because we talked about in the last group as well, is, how do you create equity? Because if you look at Shasbury, we've done well with funding different programs. We've done well putting, computers in the budget, just to give the kids, the opportunity. At that point, if you look at what's going on in Shasbury and Bennington, if you take like Nature's Classroom, that's something we funded completely through the budget item. In Bennington, it's still done, within the school district where you have to go and fundraise. They get some money, but, it's not completely funded. So how do you look at a school who's trying to be progressive and fund things at the district, at the school level, with another district who's lagging behind? And that's one thing, we talked about last time is, for Shasbury, does it just mean you have to cut something to help fund something in Bennington?
Right.
And, I know some people in Shasbury find it hard pill to swallow.
Sure.
How do you make that happen?
But the other side of that is kind of maximizing resources, right?
Maximizing resources.
So,
Exactly.
and it feels like maximizing resources is something that the more of us that are maximizing our resources together, the more efficiently we're likely to use what we have.
Yeah. It's something interesting to contemplate for sure, because you have one board looking at the whole thing, right? Does that mean you lose something you have?
Do you cut $20,000 the Shasbury budget?
Right.
And you take computers away from 2 classrooms, even a nature
Right.
classroom, so then you get computers.
Yeah.
As you see the budgets, the yes and no votes getting closer together,
Right.
across the districts, eventually, you can have one district say no.
Yeah.
And then you're forced to have more cuts.
Right. Yeah, and, so it's something to think about. And also, that could get into reserve funds. Some districts have reserve funds. You can take reserve, if you had Shasbury had a reserve fund for technology, you could set up a new reserve fund in the new district that is dedicated to Shasbury's technology. So you can do that kind of thing, so you can ensure the allocation of funds are specified to certain buildings. But it's something you just have to kind of start thinking about, what are the priorities, how would you politically influence that if you only have one board and essentially looking at the whole thing?
And that kind of goes to the whole equity
Yeah.
concept. Being able to provide all the children in those districts those same opportunities.
And that's what Act 46 is all about. We've been, stumbling toward it over the last few decades, but let's face it, equity is the issue.
Yeah.
And some schools have lots of resources and some don't. And that's what Act 46 is about, is to make sure that everyone has the same opportunity and isn't just an accent or...
And a budget
has
line
the
in a smaller
ability.
school is a little bit different when you're looking at those kind of things in a larger school.
Right.
It's a larger budget line that it's harder to.
And I think from the state's perspective, the equity issue really was propelled forward by looking about high schools. It wasn't so much, in Vermont's filled with some, just wonderful small schools, elementary schools, that you can really deliver a high-quality small elementary school program in your small town. And for younger children, it's a really appropriate way to do that. But when you start talking about high schools, being next to each other, 5 miles apart, in one high school, the highest math program it offers is Algebra 2. 5 miles down the road, you have someone offering 30 AP courses, including college, dual enrollment. I mean, that becomes a real challenge for the state. And then when you look at this school that has the minimal programs, they're spending over $20,000 per pupil, and these guys are operating on an economy scale around $13,000. And that's only because of governance? That's where Act 46 really...
And I think that's where the equity comes in, is like, what's your priorities? We're late to the game for our Tier 2 teachers. We held off on a math interventionist. We, voted, went down, and all the other schools already have.
Right.
So, that's something that we set in the budget for another year and voted again.
Yeah. And you'll start to see, talk about intervention services, one of the things that immersion can do is then you get into an allocation of resources based on really where you have the needs, So if you have, the needs can vary, right? Kids' populations change, so you can move stuff around and suddenly have something pop up here and you don't have it here. You don't have to maintain these resources because 2 years from now you might have those kids again. you can say, oh, we actually have work for you over here. We don't have to hire, 2 more speech pathologists because we've got some sort of sitting with a easier caseload we can move. Let's have a group 2 real quick.
I would, one more thing,
Go
like,
ahead.
I would also say, like, even equity for teachers, that there's some, like, similar
good.
professional
Mhm.
development
Yeah.
opportunities. You might have some great opportunities in one school and not in the other, and how does that really, if the goal is to bring everybody together and raise them all up, they should be raising them up collectively.
Yeah, and you could do that now. I mean, that'll be the conversation as you consider advisability or not. You can do that now, but you certainly have structural barriers to do it.
Right.
Maybe those structural barriers will be eliminated. One of the things to think about with merging is that those teachers that are employed by those districts would now be employed by the new district. So you have one employer of record. And the ability to then assign people, you have to work that out. But there's greater ability to move. And we'll talk about that further on in goals. How about goal 2 with the other group? Anything come out of your conversation?
We got Scrab here.
For the big thing, I think the district does a pretty good job at, streamlining the curriculum. I mean, most of the teachers, I think, are on the same page. There's some, and to optimize the program choices. There's some programs used in some schools and not in other schools, but I think they're getting closer aligned, by having the same curriculum. Some of the specialty teachers, you can share, which actually under one contract, which is beneficial to those teachers. Because instead of having a .8 and a .2 somewhere, they now have one full-time, unit. So, and it's something the high school does. They have department levels. Now, Jim could always chime in here, but, at the elementary levels, they're still, they work together, like the kindergartners come together. But, you can almost see it come together as a department for here's all the kindergarten, first grade teachers, and during the, in services, they would get together. And they could really talk what's working best for them. Right now, they come together sometimes, but then there's the in-services for the Shasbury School. And then, that Shasbury School is talking about the math program for Shasbury School instead of all the kindergartners across teachers getting together and talking about, okay, what program we're going to use and how's it going to work best for all the kids. I think that's about it.
Okay. So,
Anything else?
point of doing this was just to give you a sense of what it is to like to do this from scratch. It's, you would obviously, the committee would get in place and say, we really need to hear from people from the district. They come to the next meeting and tell us about the things they're doing because we have no idea what that school's doing or no idea what this school is doing. In our 4-session process, we'll call it, and we've got to move forward a little quicker. So, one of the things, firstly, I share with you, this is the work that was done last time by the previous study committee. So we have this document, and specifically, we zoom in on these goals. You can see some of the things they came up with. I think, we talked already, but this might be a way for this committee as a starting point. Instead of starting these kind of brainstorming conversations from scratch, to start it from this document and say, okay, let's look at what someone else already did. Or even more focused is to say, Jim, would you mind between now and the next meeting taking a look at this, and based on where you think the opportunities are relative to the other plan, could you give us some bullets for next time to review? So Jim meaning representing the professional staff's input into what the merger might be able to do educationally?
Because that's what this document represents. It came from a series of administrative and director meetings to propagate this form. Originally back, I think that goes back, I told you, to November of 2015.
Cool. So how do you guys, are you comfortable with, for next time, instead of going through these in detail like we have, will you be comfortable starting with a pre-populated set to look at?
I would.
Or would you prefer to spend some more time going through organically on your own?
I mean, personally, I think it's always better to, have something to start from personally, and then we're not really reinventing the wheel and we're respecting the work that was done previously too.
Well, and a lot of this would be respecting the work of the people we've hired to do this.
Right.
So not much of that looks familiar to me
really,
from the Act 46
it
committees,
never,
but
I don't think it saw the light of day at a committee meeting. It was an administrative work
Yeah.
document,
yeah.
so.
But as we discussed in our little group, this is a good way to go about it, but a great way to go about it is to ask the professionals, what they think,
Yeah.
and then for us to truth check it.
Yeah.
So,
But that is on
That's what
is on the site, right?
That document,
This is a draft, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, not, I meant the one you were talking about, the professional.
This one,
Yes.
the one that was done by the previous committee's worksheet. So,
I don't remember
It is.
seeing
No.
it. We
I
didn't do
don't
that,
think that
no.
was done by the
No,
committee.
I said it wasn't done by the committee. It was done by the,
Never, it was
Never
going to
came to
come to the
committee.
committee,
Yeah,
and, and Jim said it came to the committee the day that we disbanded Jackie.
fortuitous.
So is that something that we can get access to?
Yeah,
Yes,
so what
I
we're
s-
thinking of doing, I mean, I see a lot of head shaking, like you'd like to start from something as opposed to, if we did that, not to keep belaboring the point of the four-session process, but if we prepared something, and I'd want to go through this with Jim and Donald a little bit to make sure it's organized, you know, now that we've seen enough number of mergers go through the state process, to make sure it would satisfy, you know, put them in the right category. Some of these, you know, some of these 4 or 5 goals are sort of overlapping, like you start to talk about FTEs and staff, there's actually a category for that. So I'd want to sort of massage them a little bit.
And start with some of this pre-filled in stuff. You know, for the school board members, you know, some of us know the information. And there's a lot of
Right.
new members here too. You know, Dick's been here for a while as a
Yeah.
school board member. I'm looking at 3 years now. For some of the new people who might not know the curriculum piece, because
Yeah,
if you looked at March, April, May, June meetings, and you don't talk curriculum then usually.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they might not have asked those questions. So if you can fill these in, it makes it easy for some of the new school board members and then the community members.
Yeah, and we translate, some of this is, you can tell professionals wrote it because it's got a lot of
Yeah.
acronyms in terms of art, so we sort of translate that into the language the state board prefers. So if we did that for next time, if I gave you, you know, as part of an agenda packet in advance, you had sort of these pre-populated with the idea that we're going to go through these and sort of like cross them out or wordsmith them.
Sounds good.
So you and Jim's staff will just go through them
As part of the
again?
agenda preparation
Yeah,
process.
it certainly needs to be updated from,
So, and if we could do that, you know, this is all gonna sneak right up on us, but if we could do that and get it out in time for people to read it ahead,
It would be-
you know, if we do a little homework, this will go a lot better. So if people read it ahead, and then throw suggestions in, you know, we need to add this in, or, you know,
If
something
you,
like
if you
that.
came to the table ready to do that, the whole thing will flow out.
And just, you know, and this is for the community people, because if it goes to us, I mean, could we put it on the SVSU website? So, you know, like if I look at like Jackie and Ken and the people out there who are school board members.
yeah. I wouldn't
so
put
they
that, I wouldn't put that on the website until we
The agenda.
rework it.
There's
Oh,
some
the
rough
agenda
stuff,
pack.
Yeah,
there's some
the
rough stuff on
rough
that, yeah.
Yeah, the agenda, so one of the things we do is I would take it out of this format, I would actually just put it into like, here's the raw data. Because this worksheet, you know, it's kind of confusing to work from the worksheet, just prefer to say, here's goal 1, here's what we came up with in goals from the previous work, goal 1. And your expectation when you came to meetings that you've read that, you've read through, you came with ideas of how to improve it or modify it, or you have questions like, what is this an acronym, what's MTSS? And then we would expeditiously move in that second work session, we'd go through this with the idea at the end, or probably halfway through the work session, we'd be seeking to vote on, have this committee formally say, hey, we've answered the 5 goals, we feel pretty good about it, let's stop and move on to the next topic of our 4-session work.
Let's do that, let's take what we've done tonight, add it into what you've got there,
Yep.
break it out so it's not in this funky form, and then push it back to this group
Yep.
before the middle of next week,
Yeah.
and that gives people a week to chew on it.
Yep.
Does that sound good?
Okay.
If I can you send it to me?
Good. So here's something else to consider. So remember I said there's 5 goals? I really lied, there's 6. Okay, so in the preamble to Act 46, it talks about the overarching purpose of the law is to create a more sustainable governance structure. And then it says colon, and here are 5 goals. So we have to talk a little bit about this issue of sustainable governance structure. I glanced at the work that was done before, and it wasn't addressed either, so we'll need this either for the reporter at some point, it needs to be talked about. So just to give you something to chew on, I'm going to throw out you the packet. So one of the stated purposes of Act 46 is to create more sustainable governance structures. So the concern about that has to do with these things, okay? This is from the policy conversation. Firstly, statewide turnover rate among leaders such as superintendents and principals. So there's a relationship between complexity of governance and turnover of leadership. Should you be concerned about turnover of leadership? That's a question for you to think about. That also manifests itself in school board turnover, inability of school boards to fill vacancies. I don't know what your experience with that has been. Difficulty the boards have in meeting quorum requirements, particularly large SU boards. I was at an SU board meeting talking about sustainable governance structure, and then after I was done talking with them, they convened their meeting, and then we found out they didn't have a quorum. It was kind of a fun night. And then, the issue, the last bullet, interestingly, statewide, about 95% of school board vacancies are filled through uncontested elections. So, if you want to get on a school board, you can, basically. So is that an issue? Maybe these aren't issues for you, but these are the policy issues that have emerged. So we'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit. What has been your experience as an SVSU and member districts with these kinds of issues? To what extent the merging? Obviously, you're going to eliminate some boards, so it makes it a little easier, but do you think that would be an advantage, or the downside of losing the boards is that you lose some of that community connection, but there's ways to deal with that, such as school committees and so forth. So I just want to alert you that there is sort of a sixth thing we'll talk about.
When did this fit into your work plan?
I'm going to throw it out in this next agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so it's under the 5 goals sort of category.
Okay.
I just wanted to stimulate your thinking, because I don't know if it was overtly addressed in the prior committee's work. So it's going to stimulate your interest in that to start thinking about, especially those who've been on boards for a while. Start thinking about that a little bit. Obviously, the answer here is that one board makes this better, but maybe you haven't had an issue with it. But anyway, okay. So coming back to where we are tonight, we discussed some policy objectives and visions. We approved a draft work plan. We sort of got a handle on how we're going to go forward. Next session, we're going to send this stuff out to you in advance, sort of pre-populate out the 5 objectives we got from last time. Plus, we'll take a look at this governance issue, and you'll have that in advance, so you'll be able to come to the meeting and engage in that work. So in session 2, what I'd be seeking to have you do, and I'm going to keep pushing along. Your job is to sort of push back against me. I'll keep pushing, and we'll try to get you to, lock in at least initially as a draft of policy objectives. And if you look at those other 2 studies, we're not looking for a long list of things. So I think it's like 5 bullets probably max for each area. Sometimes 1 or 2 is sufficient. You don't really need to have a elaborate list. So the nice thing about the prior work is you got a lot of stuff to pull from, and you can probably consolidate that down to nice simple bullet points. So what we're going to try to talk about next time, I think, is also then moving into we're assuming the MUD is the primary target of this issue, and we're going to try to move to a governance modeling. Is that session 2?
Do we, are we comfortable with that? I mean, I've had a lot of side conversations with people
So
here.
the MUD is, North Bennington would be advisable, correct?
Yeah, so the issue would be you try to, I should say, we aim it as a conventional merger, like you merge all the districts into a single district, and then acknowledging that some people might vote no.
So everyone's advisable.
No,
No.
I mean, that'll get us to I should mention, the last conversation we'll have is necessary versus advisable.
Okay,
That's sort of a political assessment,
okay,
but you have to flesh it out first, and then say, okay, if we try to present this to the towns, which ones would it be risky for us to put as advisable versus necessary? And that's sort of the last step, and then you say, okay, we finished it, is this even a good idea, yes or no?
okay.
Okay? But the idea of aiming it at a model, this conventional merger model is a logical one in my view, because you already have the Union High School District, Middle School District. You're really talking about merging the elementaries, and that creates a unified union, or what's called a conventional merger under the law. But then you need to acknowledge that some people might vote no, including North Bennington, which is not part of this committee. So you're definitely going to have North Bennington as an advisable district. They don't have to be part of the committee in order to be named an advisable district. But as we get closer to the end, we might have others being labeled as advisable.
Now, I felt like from last week, I thought we wouldn't even be able to do a conventional merger with North Bennington because they're not
That's right.
they're not operating.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So I don't even think we have that opportunity.
Excuse me.
Yeah, okay.
I think correct. Yeah, you'd be aiming at a red, and then it's a fallback of mud.
Yeah, so she was clear that this is we can say we're going for a MUD, but we're going for a MUD fallback. I think is the way she phrased
Is
it.
that the same thing as a Union Elementary School District?
No, so that was the other option that
It's
Yeah,
like
so-
option 3.
she threw
Okay.
out, but in side conversations, you end up with still a lot of boards and not a lot of advantage.
Right.
So
Seems
do we
like an
really
apple
want to spin our wheels,
Okay.
for tiny incremental gains?
And honestly, if you do that, the state's probably going to force you to merge it into one thing
Okay.
after, because that would be like a preliminary step.
September 2.
But if you aimed it at basically merging everything except North Bennington, and North Bennington sort of being the mud fallback, that would be the logical place to start, I think. I don't think really the 2x2 ones and all that stuff, I don't think any of that's really appropriate in this setting. You don't really have a one. No, I suppose not that you could be one, but they're, anyway, I think it would be expeditious or efficient for the process to aim it at the most logical model, flesh it out, and then if there's problems, well, look at some other models. And the next logical model would be this elementary configuration.
The way we were thinking about it in the last iteration is we were trying it on.
Yeah,
And so
that's all this is trying it on.
if we can just sort of agree that let's try on the mud,
Yeah.
see how it works, see what the numbers look like. And if it doesn't work along the way, then we'll look at other options, but there aren't many.
Yeah.
There aren't any others
Yeah.
that I like, really.
So in
That's the
order
only
for
one.
next time, if we're gonna move along, say if we took the mud as an assumption, be like a hypothesis, what we would be modeling for next time is a governance configuration of the boards. We wouldn't do the financials next time, we'd do that third time. But we tried to look at, and it sounds like you've looked at large voting as a methodology, so we would, next time, move pretty quickly through policy objectives, try to nail that down, and then move into a conversation about a governance configuration of the fund. Okay? So in order to do that, I'll give you a thing in your packet about how to do governance configuration from the state. It's like a 2-page read, but it's very useful. It talks about the constitutional things, and maybe you've seen it before. It's nice little guidance. And I'll do some modeling ahead of time. I'll look at what you've done, and I'll include in there some suggested models. Basically, the two choices, one is proportionality based on town population, which is the traditional sort of approach. Other things are possible to do at large voting. At large voting means that all the voters in the electorate vote on all of the school board members. Pownell doesn't vote on their reps, Shaftesbury doesn't vote on theirs. All the districts elect, the whole electorate elects all the school board members. That's at large voting.
Addison did that, didn't they? Addison?
Yeah, there's several. Actually, Conica Green, the one I work with, he did that as well. So it basically allows you to, you essentially have one man, one voter, one person, one vote by allowing at-large voting, so you don't have to worry about proportional representation.
That sounds like a good plan to me. Everybody else good with that?
Okay, so that's ambitious.
We're ambitious. We're ambitious, aren't we?
Can we get access to Donna's presentation from,
Yes.
Yep.
would be very helpful.
The one that she gave last week?
Yes.
So that,
So that's all things, I'm making notes, things that we're going to put onto our website.
Repository, just anything.
Yep, we have a section on our website
A lot
that's
of
for
it's
Act
on there.
46, and it needs to be updated. It's
do minutes go there and
Yeah.
presentations and is it kind of
Yep.
a pile?
You can organize it by session, here's the session on and everything.
Yeah.
That'd be great, Jim, if you
Okay.
make that available.
Yeah.
And would you be willing to send a link out, an
Yeah.
actual link to everybody, please?
I just caution that with the 4th of July weekend,
Sure.
you might not see this until next week. You
Yeah,
won't
it's
see it till next week,
ambitious.
yeah.
Very
I think if we could aspire to middle of next week,
Yeah.
that'd be
Yep.
great. Anything else from you tonight, Dan? You?
No, I think that's been very helpful for me to get a sense of where you guys are thinking this.
That's a great presentation, I think. Is there any, so we're gonna do we're gonna ask citizens if they have any comments or questions. Before we do that, is there anything else from the committee members that comes up? Any questions? No? Anyone out there that's got anything on their mind? Jackie, you're gonna hold off for now? I almost called on you tonight, but resisted. Okay, well then, that's great. So we started this meeting 15 minutes late, and we are ending it on time. So I want to thank you for your expedition, and thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you 6 o'clock on July 13th. Great. Motion, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.